Maxey from outside. Sixers lead, courtesy of Tyrese Maxey.
Deep to left field, going back is Locastro. It is gone!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast on Pick Swap Media. Your host, Ryan Coyle, continuing on with our college football preview series, hitting on all the heavy hitters in college football. I mean, we've done Tennessee, we've done LSU, we've done Florida, we've done Nebraska, we've done Virginia Tech, we've done Colorado, we've done Michigan, we've done Penn State. Today, we will be hitting on Notre Dame, another one of the big boys in college football. I've recorded a ton more that we didn't even mention. We still got to record Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon. We still got a bunch of big names to get to. Recording this, we are only 11 days out from the season starting, so we're getting closer and closer. And today's episode is on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, one of, if not the most recognizable brand in all of college football. I think you could make the argument for. I mean, the history with this program goes way back and way back and way back, but the national relevancy in terms of being in the title conversation, I think has gone by the wayside. They are a team that is another one of the teams that is really going to benefit from this 12-team playoff. Them, Penn State, it seems like Ole Miss has been in that conversation, but these are the teams that are like, all right, 10-2, 11-1 should get you in, but they're not a team that has been known to be going undefeated. I mean, they made the playoff, I believe it was once in the 4-team. They made the national championship with Brian Kelly back when they got beaten up bad by Alabama before. So it's a team that hasn't restored to national glory in quite some time. But I think they are a team that is suited, and the way their schedule aligns, not just this year, but the way they kind of build it out every year going forward, where they'll have, as an independent still, a few marquee matchups each and every year, and then a few cupcakes throughout as well. But when you look up, they're going to have 10, 11 wins probably, and be right there in the conversation to be in the playoff. We know that the top 4 teams in the playoff this year, regardless of the rankings, will be SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12 champions. And then you have the group of 5 champ, and then you got your 7 at-larges. And I think Notre Dame enters this year certainly in the mix to be one of those at-large teams. Obviously, they won't be able to win a league title as they are an independent program, but with the AP poll coming out the other day, Notre Dame enters the 2024 season as the number 7 team in the country, led by head coach Marcus Freeman, former DC at Notre Dame, turned head coach after Brian Kelly departs for LSU. Freeman is 19-8 in his 2 years as the head coach. And as he enters year 3, I think his best roster yet and his best chance, obviously now, to make the playoff within expanded to 12 teams from the original 4 teams. When you look at the 2023 season for Notre Dame, a year that's successful and that we kind of talked about, where right there with like Penn State, where it's like, all right, they're 10-2, but they lost their big games against people. Notre Dame goes 10-3 last year, but still, they're kind of right in that conversation where will they ever get back to 11-1, 12-0 every single year if you're not going undefeated, or if you only have, or if you're 11-1, is that making your fans upset? Like, are expectations still national championships? Because I should have had this up in front of me before I did this, but I don't know the last time Notre Dame won the national championship, but I don't think it's been in my lifetime, and I've been around since 1999. So the championship window or the championship era of this program, is that behind them, or is Marcus Freeman able to bring them back? I think the expectations are that he can, and he will bring them back from the Notre Dame fan base and the Notre Dame athletic department. But 10-3 last year, beat Oregon State in the Sun Bowl 40-8 to close out the year. Had a really strong scoring offense and scoring defense. They ranked 7th at both spots last year. We're a really well-balanced team, and I think that's the goal for this team going forward. They're always going to have a strong defense. They're always going to be strong on the lines of scrimmage at Notre Dame. But being able to go out there and win shootouts, or going out there and being able to win defensive battles, being able to beat a team in a multitude of ways, that is the goal, and that's the winning formula, I think, in college football. These days, Notre Dame kind of was moving in that trajectory last year into that kind of position. Defense ranked top 10 in passing defense and total defense, and the team was +7 in the turnover margin, which was 20th in the country. So statistically, this team was very good. Was an elite squad last year. Only going 9-3 in the regular season, losing your 3 biggest games of the season, Ohio State, Clemson, and Louisville. That's where you kind of go, well, what happened? I mean, that's the difference from being a playoff team last year, being an elite squad going forward. 9-3 this year, maybe that gets you in. Maybe you're the 11th team. But I think that looking at their schedule too, it's a pretty doable schedule. 10-2 should be able to get this team in this year. But is Notre Dame okay with just being that 9-3 regular season squad? I don't think so. Many programs are doing backflips and cartwheels if that's the case, but I don't think that's the case still at Notre Dame. The expectations are still super high there. Offense scored 40 or more in 9 of their 13 games. I was surprised to see the number that high. And defense held their opponents to 10 or less in 5 games. So statistically, put up great numbers throughout the year, but their 3 biggest games, Ohio State, only had 10 guys on the field in that last play of the game where they lost to Ohio State. Clemson, they get handled in that one. Louisville, they get handled in that one. So they haven't shown up in the big spots yet under Marcus Freeman, but I think year 3 is where we do see a lot of coaches and programs kind of break through. So when you look at the offense for this year, for Notre Dame, 7th in scoring last year, led by Sam Hartman at 39.2 points per game. Most of that group is gone, though. And it's headlined by Sam Hartman, who led that squad to 39.2 points per game. I think the expectation was more so, win that Ohio State game, win the Clemson game, win the Louisville game, be a playoff team. That's what they brought him in for. That's what he was kind of looked at as the guy to get them over the top there. He's replaced by Riley Leonard from Duke last year, and this unit as a whole only returns 2 starters. So 2 starters return only, a new quarterback. It might take some time for this unit to get off the ground. Offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock is back from LSU after leading them to the number 1 offense in the country last year. Look for this team to be much more modern on offense. I think when we think about Notre Dame, over the past 15, 20 years, even historically, you think kind of ground and pound, good at the line of scrimmage, win from within. Make no mistake about it, this is going to be a much more spread out team than last year and what you've seen out of Notre Dame in the past. It's going to resemble a lot more of kind of what you saw out of LSU last year with Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas, and Malik Neighbors not in the situation. Will the offense be as good? Probably not, but still, you're going to see these skill position players that Marcus Freeman has been recruiting, that they've been bringing in through the portal, these athletes, these guys with speed, and Riley Leonard, who's a really good dual threat type of quarterback. You're going to see this offense be much more modern this year, spread the field, and utilize the weapon that Leonard can be with his athleticism. He's a heck of an athlete, was a former great basketball player I remember hearing about all last year. I expect that to be shown by Denbrock and find ways to use him like he did with Jaden Daniels last year. To the same extent, probably not. He's not that quite good of an athlete, but still a very good athlete that can hold his own. Audric Estime was a heck of a college running back. He's out running back to the draft. I believe he went to the Broncos. And in steps Jeremiah Love, who's more of like an explosive piece and should fit this Denbrock offense, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he's going to be one of the breakout players in college football this year. And at Notre Dame, there hasn't really been over the past 5-6 years much buzz out of the receiver room. This is a revamped wide receiver room that has a lot of excitement. There might not be a clear-cut stud, as we were talking about with Denbrock having 2 first-round picks at wide receiver last year in Thomas and Neighbors. But he does have a deep room with guys that are expected to step up from transfers, but also guys that were in the program last year that are expected to step up and make an impact. Jaden Greathouse is one of the receivers. Bo Collins is a transfer. Chris Mitchell is a transfer. Jaden Harrison are the 4 main guys that have a lot of buzz around them. And looking at the LSU offense from last year, spread it out, play a lot of different receivers. And Notre Dame always has production, it seems, from the tight end spot. So look at Mitchell Evans to be the guy there. He is recovering from an ACL tear from last October, so remains to be seen if he'll be ready for week 1 in Texas A&M. But Notre Dame tight ends have been good for the majority of the past 15 to 20 years. Look for that to still be a strong suit this year. And the offensive line at Notre Dame is always a group that's strong. But the offensive line this year only returns Pat Coogan, the left guard, and then projected left tackle Charles Jaguars out for the year with injury. He got hurt at the beginning of the camp. So they're only bringing back one starter from last year, but they're always strong up front, and I won't be surprised if this is one of the, once again, top 10 to 15 offensive line in all of college football. But with only 2 returning starters and so many new pieces, it might take some time until this offense really takes off, and they have a big road test in week 1 against the Texas A&M team that, is going through a change with Mike Elko becoming the head coach there as well. But still, a lot of talents there, a lot of players that Elko recruited and had coached before, or at least, is familiar with, has a relationship with. That is a really tough test for Notre Dame week 1 with so many new pieces. So they probably won't be tested again. They have a few layups after that A&M game. They have Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, not a layup. They're like the favorite in the MAC, but still, that should be a win there. But really up till September 28th against Louisville, so the next time they're tested. So Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, they should be able to win those games and smooth some things out. They'll be favored for sure in all those games. But if they lose that Texas A&M game, I don't really think it's much of a panic matter, because they're going to be favored in a lot of matchups the rest of the way, and an 11-1 season will certainly still get them in the playoff. Defense for this team, this side of the ball will be the bread and butter of the team, and I think why so many people are optimistic that they will make the playoff in this 12-team field. 7th in scoring defense last year at 15.9 points per game. 26th in rushing defense at 119 yards per game. 3rd in passing defense at 157.3 yards per game, and 5th in total defense at 276.3 yards per game. Al Golden coordinating this defense, but Marcus Freeman, defensive guy himself, has a lot to say about this unit, and he's made this unit, those two guys have made this unit into a high-level bunch, and they should be considered, I think, going into this year as one of the top 5 to 10 defenses in all of college football. And I think this is going to be the unit that kind of carries them throughout the first quarter to half of the season as the offense really gets acclimated, because it's really hard to kind of wrap your mind around. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, only one returning starting offensive lineman, so many new pieces coming back or coming into that offense for that team. The defense is going to have to more than hold their own these first few weeks and really allow the offense to get their feet under them, and the defense is going to have to probably go out there and win, a handful of games themselves. But from last year's top 10 unit, they returned 5 starters, headlined by defensive tackle Howard Cross III and Riley Mills, linebacker Jack Kaiser, and safety Xavier Watts. All could have turned pro last year. All 4 of those guys came back to Notre Dame. Cross is one of the best defensive tackles in all of college football. And then you go to arguably the best player on the entire roster in cornerback Benjamin Morrison. He was only a sophomore last year. He couldn't even turn pro yet. He's back as well for his junior season, and he's, being talked about as a top 10 to 15 player for next year's NFL draft. So you have a lot of talent to work with there, a lot of future NFL talent, and then there's a lot of buzz around freshman linebacker Kingston Vilimwa Asa, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I believe he is a player of Hawaiian descent, a.k.a. KVA is what they call him, but he has the potential to be an impact player right now. It's the buzz out of kind of camp in the spring was he's a guy that we're, not able to take off the field. That's how good and valuable he is. So look for KVA to be one of the breakout players on the defensive side of the ball in college football this year. But the secondary, they have some ball hawks with Morrison. He's got 9 picks in 2 years of substantial playing time at Notre Dame. And then Watts as well, Xavier Watts, the best safety arguably in the country last year. He had 7 interceptions last season. So 2 hell of players in the secondary there. The defense is deep, littered with future NFL players. There's probably 5 to 6 guys, I think, on this defense that will be NFL players, maybe not next year, but the year after that, and probably round 5 and above as well. Like this, there's some real legit NFL talent on this team. So another year in Golden system. Freeman, the defensive mind as well. This defense has a potential to be even better than last year, and they were a top 10 unit in most statistical categories. So great defense, very bullish, and an offense that has potential, but I think could take some time to work out. As always, though, we will bring up the schedule. We will go down through game by game for this Notre Dame team for the upcoming season. All right, starting off Texas A&M. That is going to be a toughie week 1. Texas A&M, I believe, came in ranked number 20 in the opening poll. But Notre Dame, as we talked about, I'm a little worried about that offense in week 1 especially. That's a tough game on the road for a Texas A&M team that has, a little new life, little new blood in there to be a potential playoff team themselves this year. I think that's a tough week 1 game. I'm going to have Notre Dame lose that one to Texas A&M. But I don't think there's reason to panic or concern from there. Northern Illinois should be an easy win. Purdue projected to be the worst team in the Big Ten. Easy win there. You go to 2-1. Miami of Ohio, the favorite in the MAC, but so you're Notre Dame. They should be able to push them around in that one. 3-1. Louisville, revenge game from last year after Louisville pushed Notre Dame around. Notre Dame gets Louisville at home in this one. I'll give them a win there. Stanford, I'm going to give Notre Dame another win there. Georgia Tech, we've talked about on a couple of shows so far for ACC teams. Georgia Tech's a team that's going to be sneaky. I think picks off a couple of squads. They have to be careful in that one. They're it's at the Falcons Stadium, so technically it's a neutral game, but that's going to be a heavy Georgia Tech crowd with Georgia Tech being there in Atlanta. But Notre Dame, as always, travels well. That should be a good game. That's a tough test, but I'm going to give Notre Dame the nod there. Navy, the triple option, you never know what that'll bring, but I'll give Notre Dame the win there. So after this Texas A&M game where they're a 1.5-point road dog, they're going to be favored in every game up until this Florida State game where, it depends where Florida State is in the year, how they're looking. They would have already played Miami by then. Florida State going undefeated into that matchup. Notre Dame being home at that one, if they have ran the table since that A&M game, will most likely be favored, but that could be a coin flip battle there. Florida State's a team we're going to break down in the next couple episodes, but I'm going to give Notre Dame the benefit of the doubt there, especially being at home, and I think this is a point in the season where the offense starts to turn the corner. The offense could maybe go out there and win them a game or two down the stretch if need be and help them as they make that playoff push and eventually get into the playoff where they'll have to go out there and win some scoring battles. And then the Virginia game. Virginia is a team that I'm a little bit higher on than some. Not saying they'll be a great team this year, but I'm not going to be surprised if they flirt with bowl eligibility, get to maybe 5 or 6 wins. But that's a squad that I expect Notre Dame to handle at home. Army, I might actually try to go to this game at Yankee Stadium. That should be a cool one, a 7 o'clock kick. That'll be a fun one. I think the Saturday before Thanksgiving. That'd be a fun game to go to. Pretty expensive probably, but that's besides the point. I'm going to give Notre Dame the win there, but Army's a team that who knows what to expect from them. They could be 4-8. They could be 10-2 at the end of the year. Depends how all these pieces merge, but I'll give Notre Dame the win there. And then USC, going out to USC. USC is a squad I'm low on. I have them as a 5-7 team. I'm going to have Notre Dame go out there and win that game, but that's a long-standing rivalry, and USC comes into the year at number 23, I believe it is, in the poll. So who knows what they look at by the end of the season. I could completely switch my tone on both of these teams by then, but I'm going to have Notre Dame lose that first game of the year to Texas A&M and then run the table from there. Go 11-1. That'll certainly get them in the playoff. Probably 3 ranked wins, I'd say, along the way. Florida State, Louisville has a chance, maybe two ranked wins. It's not a super tough schedule, and they get a lot of the tougher games at home. So 11-1, I have them making the playoff. Their over-under is at 10 at DraftKings right now at -115. It's going to be just a stay away for me because I could, who knows what USC looks like at the end of the year? Who knows what Florida State looks like? There's a couple coin flip games on some teams that I'm lower on, but that could outperform my expectations. So I would lean to the over, but I could see them dropping more than one game, and then you just kind of get the push there. Or if I don't really see them go 9-3, but you're not really playing for the push. -160 to make the playoff, I think is certainly worth a look more than the over 10 wins, because 10-2, I don't know if it gets them in. 11-1 definitely will. +125 to not make the playoff. If you think they're a 9-3 squad, maybe even if you do think that they go 10-2, take the chance on them at plus money to miss the playoff rather than just settle for kind of the push there with the 10 wins. But they do enter the year at number 7. Number 7 in the poll, but number 8 in terms of national title odds at 22-1. So high expectations for Notre Dame. I think they'll be a team that gets better as the year goes on, but the defense is going to be a scary unit. Offense could be a bit of a work in progress. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.